July 2021. Giorgio Tsoukalos and William Henry have been granted special access to Rock Art Ranch in Winslow, Arizona, where Navajo tribal elder John Dover is guiding them through the ancient petroglyph panels.
Wow, look at this. I mean, look at the hollow body with the star inside. One hand pointing to the sky, the other down to earth. And just beneath that, look at, that is a gray alien.
That triangular head,
That
very
is a-
strange.
Yeah, it is.
You have all kinds of different types of figures, different representations of gods.
Right. I mean, what we have to fill in with our imagination is that these beings off the wall, 3D, walking amongst the people. They're interacting with these beings.
Right. We don't know if it's the same time
Right.
or could be different times.
That's mind-blowing. I'm so intrigued by that double helix up there, too, beside the trapezoidal figure. I mean,
As if to indicate, because of the creature on the left, DNA, had something to do
Right.
with this.
That's right.
Giorgio, when you see the guy with the trapezoidal body, and you see the curvy lines on the body, that always symbolizes, like, vibration.
Okay.
The Anunnaki wore cloaks that had those kind of curvy lines all over.
Right.
And so here we have a clear symbolic connection with the Anunnaki on this figure.
The Anunnaki were powerful deities worshipped more than 5,000 years ago by the ancient Sumerians who inhabited Mesopotamia, an area that is now modern-day Iraq. According to the Sumerian writings, the Anunnaki descended upon a mountain, shining like the sun, and shared profound wisdom with the human race.
Look at all the different types of beings here. And then all the way across there, you've still got even more variety. I mean, this is almost like a meeting place of all these different worlds and different beings.
So, you have giants, you have little people, and the giants and the little people are talked about in the other world that they came from before they came to this world.
And the guy here with the horns, which could be rays, right next to the gray alien, he's got horns or rays coming off of his head. You see that at Valcamonica in Italy.
Yes,
see
you
it
do.
All kinds of different places. And again, pointing to the idea that these could be luminous or radiant beings that they're portraying.
And seeing creatures here having, for example, 3 fingers, as far as I know, except for a couple of reptiles, there aren't any 3-fingered creatures, so, and especially nothing humanoid.
Right.
So, again, our ancestors had impeccable powers of observation. That's all they did all day. They observed. And so your estimation then, too, is that this was not a bunch of kids, on a Saturday night not knowing what to do.
Absolutely not. These were people that came here with a purpose. And the purpose was to put their history on the wall, showing where they came from, where they were going.
John, this is incredible. And what I love the most is the access. I mean, I've never been face to face like this.
There's a lot of places nobody's allowed to go except for archaeologists, medicine men, and rangers.
It's spectacular. It's one thing to see images in a book or online, but to come face to face with it, feel the energy, see it, spectacular. I came away with this deep sense that this is meant for us to discover throughout the ages, that it was super important to the ancients to record this information, to tell us that these beings were here, they had a hand in our evolution, and they're probably still visiting us today.
What I think is important in this whole thing is that John said, these are our stories of the star people. And when First Nation cultures say that someone visited from the sky and imparted knowledge, I think it's time that we start to listen.
Southern Peru, 1549. While searching for the capital of the Inca Empire, Spanish conquistadors, led by Pedro Cieza de León, cross into Bolivia and discover the ruins of Tiahuanaco. Less than a quarter-mile northeast of Punku, mainstream scientists believe Tiahuanaco was once the center of a civilization with more than 40,000 inhabitants.
Tiahuanaco is probably the greatest Native American civilization that many people haven't heard of. It was one of the most important antecedents of the Inca. It was long gone by the time the Spaniards came on the scene. Yet its level of achievement in architecture, in political development, in agriculture, in many craft industries are on a very high level.
Most scholars agree that Tiahuanaco was mysteriously abandoned around 1100 AD. But why? Local legends suggest that Tiahuanaco was built as a site of religious pilgrimage to celebrate the arrival of sky gods at nearby Puma Punku. According to ancient astronaut theorists, the two sites were not only built at different times, but also by beings from different worlds.
Puma Punku, I think, is very of the gods. And I think mankind did very little with that site. And then nearby, our ancestors built Tiahuanaco as a place where people could come to explore these places, but also, I think, as a tribute site where a god had once been physically present on planet Earth.
You have to differentiate two different styles of construction. The old style, which I call the extraterrestrial style, and then the later style, which was made by the humans.
Tiahuanaco is nothing else but a place of pilgrimage for people to congregate and remember the time when something significant happened at Puma Punku. And the thing that was significant about it was an extraterrestrial visit by ancient aliens in the remote past.
But if Tiahuanaco was built to honor extraterrestrial contact, as ancient astronaut theorists contend, might there be tangible evidence? In the 1960s, the Bolivian government excavated and unearthed the subterranean temple at Tiahuanaco. Within the walls of the square sunken courtyard are hundreds of stone heads with a diverse range of features.
Here at the famous sunken temple at Tiahuanaco, we have all of the different heads that have been inserted into the walls. It's sometimes said that there are all the races of mankind represented here. Even elongated skulls, people wearing turbans, people with broad noses, people with thin noses, people with thick lips, people with thin lips, and some of the statues are particularly unusual.
They don't seem to represent the local people. They seem to represent every type and shape of human head existing on the planet. Two of them, which are very intriguing, are white in color, and they look very much like gray alien heads.
When we're looking at the carved heads of the Tiahuanaco complex, you really see that it's almost as if this is a UN headquarters, whereby everybody was able to come there because all cultures on planet Earth accepted that Tiahuanaco was so special because this was a place where contact with the divine had been made.
Adams County, Ohio. At the end of the 1700s, President George Washington awarded what was then the uncharted land beyond the Appalachian Mountains to Revolutionary War veterans in 600-acre parcels as payment for their service. But when the settlers arrived, they found much of the land covered with thousands of Indian burial mounds. And one of these was very different from the rest.
Imagine when you're pushing west, and all of a sudden you find this gigantic effigy mound in the form of a serpent. What you have is a gigantic structure which just sits there in the middle of a very interesting landscape.
Serpent Mound was one of the amazing, mysterious mounds found by the first settlers as they came over the Appalachian Mountains. There were thousands of mounds, but Serpent Mound must have been special.
Like the Nazca lines in Peru, Serpent Mound is a giant prehistoric structure that looks as though it is meant to be viewed only from the sky.
When you see the Great Serpent Mound in Ohio, it's massively huge. And it can't really be appreciated when you're standing there looking at it. What we have here is meant to be seen from the sky.
It's mysterious in the fact that it is on an elevated plateau and concealed from the world, unless you're flying over it in a plane. And it's on very uneven ground. And really, to lay that out and make it right, you'd almost have to be above looking down to get it right, which is a mystery.
This 1,330-foot-long structure winds across the land and depicts a coiled snake eating what appears to be an egg. It is the largest effigy mound in the world, and curiously, unlike most Native American mounds, the Great Serpent Mound was not constructed for burials.
Serpent Mound had no burials. It's one of those mysterious mounds that offered us no clue as to who the builders were. But on the property, there were burial mounds dated from about very early Adena period, nearly 3,000 years ago.
Another curious aspect of Serpent Mound is where the ancient Native Americans chose to build it, on the outside swell of a 5-mile-wide meteor crater.
300 million years ago, a meteor came into this area and struck the Earth going about 50,000 miles an hour.
The Serpent Mound is built right on the very edge of the crater. And there's magnetic anomalies and faults that go across the Serpent Mound, and that the Native Americans could douse them, and they could feel the positive energy that's coming out of the ground.
If you bring a compass to the Great Serpent Mound, there's certain spots where the compass needle just keeps going. So obviously, we have some weird magnetic fields there and also some gravitational anomalies.
The myth has it that the Native Americans, when they came here, could see birds similar to passenger pigeons or homing pigeons circling by the millions, because within the skull of the pigeon is a little piece of hematite or magnetite, and that's how they navigate. And they couldn't figure out where north was. Can you imagine millions of birds flying in a circle 5 miles wide?
In addition to creating magnetic anomalies, the meteor also deposited a number of elements not indigenous to the area, including one of the rarest elements on Earth, iridium.
When we look at the location of the Serpent Mound, we find not only that there is iron, that there is uranium, but also iridium. Iridium can withstand temperatures up to 2,000 Celsius. It is non-corrosive, and it's actually been used in unmanned spacecraft.
A lot of iridium apparently comes from outer space rather than being found on the Earth. There is a use of iridium for thermoelectric circuits. These deep space probes include actually a radioactive source because it's the only thing that can provide enough power when you're out beyond Jupiter and there's no sunlight and there's no nothing.
We have iron, iridium, and uranium, 3 substances which definitely should not be considered to be of any use to Native Americans. The question then is, to who are they of use?
Ancient astronaut theorists believe extraterrestrials may have come to this site to mine iridium for their spacecraft, and point to numerous caves found in the crater swell beneath the mound as evidence of this.
Right here, we can see one of those caves. It's pretty large, and since this site is believed to be many, many millions of years old, there's a chance that there are many, many caves.
But if alien visitors really did come here to mine iridium and other elements, might this explain why the Serpent Mound was built on a scale that made its shape visible from the sky?
The Serpent Mound is a marker for space according to the Shawnee Indians. They're convinced that space travelers are using Serpent Mound as a marker.
According to Zuni elder Clifford Mahudi, the Shawnee aren't the only Native Americans who believe Serpent Mound has an extraterrestrial connection.
The star ancestors taught the American Indians about where they came from and how they're supposed to carry out their rituals. The mound builders, I believe, were those Indian tribes that had contact with the extraterrestrials.
It's the essence of our culture. And the mounds were a place where we would practice and learn from those beings that come in from outside of this world to visit.
The majestic mesas and rugged mountains of the American Southwest are home to many native peoples, including the Navajo, Zuni, Pueblo, Hopi, and Apache. These tribes have many different beliefs, but their creation myths all share something quite remarkable.
Where we're talking about our origin, and you hear the stories about us coming down from Alaska through the Bering Strait, but what we believe is we came out from the ground.
The Apaches and other Pueblo Indians, such as the Zunis and the Hopi Indians, all have this legend that they emerged from some underground world into today's world.
In some legends, the southwestern peoples went back underground for safety. The Hopi of Arizona say their ancestors escaped a deadly storm of falling stars with the help of the Snake people, who took them to shelters deep in the earth. Another Hopi legend speaks of the Ant people, who protected them from storms of fire and ice.
The Hopi Indians survived cataclysms by living in this underground world with the ant people for a certain period of time, and then eventually they emerged from the underground world back into the surface world.
Ant people, Snake people. Could these stories be based on ancestral tales of people actually living underground, possibly during the last ice age? Or could the ancestors of today's southwestern tribes have taken refuge in subsurface dwellings similar to the underground city of Derinkuyu in Turkey? If so, over the centuries, might they have developed physical traits like large eyes and fingers that made them more closely resemble actual earth-dwelling creatures?
The shamans and the elders of Native Americans, they will tell you that before these people were able to emerge out of planet Earth, they were brought here by the star people, the star gods, which arrived from outer space.
I have stood in front of what are called the ant people and some of the very strange, large-eyed drawings on the rocks and wondered, am I looking at Native American interpretation of what today is called the extraterrestrial biological entity?
If extraterrestrials were here in the remote past, there are multiple species out there. Is it possible that they might have looked lizard-like and ant-like? And the answer is yes.
Is it possible that these underground creatures of Native American legend were actually alien visitors? If so, could some of them still be living beneath the surface of the southwestern desert? For decades, stories of encounters with UFOs and alien beings have been told among the people of New Mexico's Jicarilla Apache Reservation. Some of the aliens in these stories bear a strange resemblance to the ancient tales of the ant-like and snake-like beings from the Hopi legends.
There is things up here that no one can explain.
The Jicarilla Apache Reservation is located next to the small town of Dulce, nestled in the shadow of the over 9,000-foot-high Archuleta Mesa.
It is from this mesa and mountain that people claim they have seen UFOs flying out of the mountain.
It was a spaceship we saw right there, and it was big, like maybe the size of a football field. And then we seen this dome on top that was all glassed in. And then my husband was looking at it with the binoculars, and he saw two small people. Well, we don't know what it is. If we stayed here and they came down, I don't know what they would have done to us.
Could the native tales of spaceships and strange creatures be true? Some UFO researchers and conspiracy theorists believe that these eyewitness accounts are not only true, but are evidence of a secret collaboration between underground aliens and the U.S. military.
The amount of military traffic over Dulce, the unmarked helicopters, the black helicopters, the heavy-duty Chinooks, all these helicopters spend a lot more time in Dulce than they should if nothing were going on here. Among the stories that we've heard from the Jicarilla Apache is that they discovered vents actually right here on the mesa.
A while back, when my brother was still alive, we used to come up here in the back, and he showed us the shaft, and that thing was bigger than me. But we walked in, and I didn't want to go any further.
The vents were here maybe 25 years ago. You'd hear strange noises, groans, sighs, human groans. And this led a lot of credence to stories that human beings were being vivisected, experimented on, and thus the legend of strange creatures and strange noises coming out of this mesa grew and expanded.